X Live, good evening. TikTok, good evening. Hopefully we got everybody here. We are currently getting everything set and ready to go. YouTube Live, good evening. Sorry, gang, there's been a whole bunch of updates here that I've been going through, so hopefully everything is going to start working here relatively quickly. So that way we can get underway. I apologize for being a little late, a little tardy. Oh, wait a minute. No, this is what I wanted. Okay, so let's do this. Pop out. Do this. Minimize that. Bring this over here. Lots to get to tonight. Lots to get to. Okay. Anthony, good evening. Can you hear me okay? Good, man. How are you? All right, perfect. Welcome in, everybody. Let's go ahead and let's get the show on the road, shall we? And welcome in, everybody, to the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports. It's Brian here inside the ARM Media Solutions Studios on this Monday, June the 29th, 2026. Hope you are happy, hope you're healthy, hope you're well, wherever it is you may be listening, whether that is on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much for doing so. Welcome to episode number 200 of the Last Row Podcast. We are so happy, so thankful to have everybody here for it. We are looking forward to the show tonight. Got a lot to talk about and a little time to do it. And I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, free agency is absolutely nuts. We're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about NFL information and news and all kinds of reports that are happening out there. So we're going to dissect all of it here tonight on the show. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you. If you are with us on social media, whether that is on TikTok, whether that is on Twitter or X, however you would like to call it, you can find us and follow us there on TikTok at last.row.podcast. You can also check us out on X or Twitter at Last Row Podcast. You could find us on TikTok Live, YouTube Live, X Live, as well as finding us on our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com. That is where you can find links to all of our wonderful sponsors, including I Know a Guy Remodeling, as well as Forever Finds Thrift. And speaking of which, we want to thank them. We thank them so much for their continued support of the show. And we are hoping and we thank them, and we hope to have some new sponsors coming up here in the next week or so. So don't miss out on that. All right, let's get into it, shall we? Because we've been again restricted on TikTok. Why, I don't know. This is just absurd. So, if you're finding us on TikTok, hi, good evening, welcome in. Glad to see you. Hope you're having a great Monday evening. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk, if we may, about free agency. And actually, no, check that. Let's start here with some news and some big news. And that is just about a few hours ago. We are, and Michael, we're going to talk about that here in just a few seconds. I promise you. Um, we're going to start out tonight with some breaking news out of the NFL, and this was reported earlier today. There were things that were talked about that people kind of had people had an inkling of, and realistically, it's never easy when you talk about somebody's career coming to an end and coming to an end very quickly and utterly way too soon. But that is unfortunately the truth here about Tennessee Titan, former Tennessee Titan running back, who has been diagnosed with ALS. And Chris Johnson is undoubtedly the story that broke here this morning. And there were rumblings, and there were some interested things and interesting happenings yesterday on the Titans website. And I'd love Mr. First Down to be a part of this if he could. Basil, by the way, or Basil BK Knight, good evening. Michael, good evening. Anthony, good evening. Hopefully you guys are still with us despite the restriction that's happening with TikTok still. So, thank you very much. So, what I can tell you is this. Whoops, sorry about that. What I can tell you is this. With this diagnosis, Derek, good evening, of ALS. And look, it is not a disease to be messed around with. It is not a disease to, to really kind of, for lack of a better term, ignore, because it doesn't go away. There's no cure for it. It's just not good. It's just very unfortunate that this has happened to him, and the fact that it's happened to such a young athlete, and an athlete that has, that's been in the top shape of his life, really, and has been in good shape all of his career. It's just kind of a shock. I mean, you're not ready for it. And so in this instance here for Chris Johnson, he's retired now, obviously. Former Titan and Cardinal running back revealed today on ABC's Good Morning America that he has been diagnosed with ALS. He's 40 years old, and he was diagnosed with the disease in 2025. He said there's no history of ALS in his family, who was using a speech-generated recording device based on recordings of his own voice to speak. My doctors believe my case is what's called sporadic ALS, which is exactly how the vast majority of ALS cases happen. It can happen to somebody that's never expected it. And Johnson played 10 years in the NFL. First with the Titans from 08 to 13, and then the Jets in 14, and then the Cardinals from 15 to 17. He earned the nickname CJ2K after he rushed for 2,006 yards in 2009, which still ranks 7th for a season in NFL history. He broke the NFL single-season rushing record for yards from scrimmage that season with 2,509 and was named the AP, the Associated Press, Player of the Year. Amy Adams Strunk, the owner of the Titans, released a statement on Johnson's diagnosis, noting that the former running back's leadership on the field, in addition to his impact in the locker room and the Nashville community, have written him permanently into the story of the franchise. Strunk said that the Titans will support Johnson throughout his journey. The Cardinals said in a social media post they are sending strength, love, and support to Johnson. The Jets and NFL Players Association also released messages of support for Johnson. Look, Johnson has come to grips with this, right? Big Bill, good evening. he says, quote, I don't know if you ever fully processed it, he said of the diagnosis. At first, you're in shock, then you realize you have two choices. You can give up or you can fight. I'm choosing to fight. Tim Shaw, who had a 6-year career as an NFL linebacker in the NFL and was a teammate of Johnson's with the Titans from 2010 to 2012, was diagnosed with ALS in 2014 at age 30 and is still alive. According to research by Boston University's CTE Center, the results of which were released in 2021, pro football players are 4 times more likely to develop and die from ALS than the adult male population. At the time, the center said it couldn't determine why the rate was higher for those athletes, but suggested that the repetitive head impacts and traumatic brain injuries might play a role. Johnson, in a Instagram post later on in the day yesterday, and today, acknowledged that he's not sure how he developed it, and referenced the research that has linked repetitive head trauma to ALS. Quote, I hope the NFL steps up, invests in research, and continues working to protect players both now and for generations to come. Together, we can push towards better treatments and one day a cure. Johnson, who is taking part in a clinical trial as part of his treatment, told Michael Strahan this morning on Good Morning America that he first started noticing symptoms when he had a weaker grip. Now he can't hold a cup or speak on his own. I thought because of football and, his career that it had to be something with that. His wife, Brittany, told Strahan maybe a pinched nerve or something along those lines, but never ALS. Look, as somebody that knows somebody that was affected and passed away because of ALS, it is a debilitating disease. And it is a disease that you don't want to see anybody get. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, by far. It is something that you don't plan for. You don't know how to. There's no cure for it. There's no way to combat it. And it's unfortunate. It truly, truly is. And Johnson is fighting. There's no question about it. He said, quote, he's going public with his diagnosis to raise awareness, but also to let people know that he is the same person from his NFL career. I want people to know I'm still me. ALS has changed what my body can do, but it hasn't changed who I am. People sometimes look at the physical disability and assume you're not the same person inside. I still think the same. I still dream. I still love my family. My body just doesn't cooperate. And this is per ESPN and the Associated Press. It's unfortunate. There's no question about it. And you hope for the best and you hope for a cure. I'm finding it interesting, though, that they are tying this to the CTE studies and how the CTE studies and or the impacts to the head trauma and brain may play a factor in this. I'm not saying they don't go hand in hand, because they absolutely could and do. But the fact that, you have this young, relatively young, 40 years old guy that has ALS now, who's lost the ability to speak and, has physical disabilities, is now, for lack of a better term, disabled. And you feel for them, you feel for their family, you feel for him, and you just hope that the NFL steps up, and I'm sure that they will, just like they did with the New Orleans Saints, Steve Gleason, in his fight with ALS. Same with Tim Shaw, former Chicago Bear. So I just, my heart breaks for him and for his family and for the Titans community, because this diagnosis is not something that you never want to have it. You never want to hear of somebody that has it. Because let's be honest here, it's unfortunately it's not a good fortune moving forward, and you feel bad for them. You feel bad for their family, and of course, for their friends and loved ones. and you just hope for the best. And so that's obviously what we're we're thinking about that, um, you know, right now, and it's unfortunate. So the Titans folks were um, they were absolutely um, on it yesterday. They proceeded to release like a tribute video for him, which was a little bit surprising to say the least. Because people were like, well, what's going on here? Why are they releasing a tribute video? But it kind of led to some speculation and things like that. And ultimately, here today, it was, of course, acknowledged and brought up. So, again, prayers for the family, prayers for him, and continued health at this point in time. All right. Let's shift gears here for a minute. And let's just talk NFL overall here. Because we are, without question, rough and tough. We are approximately a month away from training camp opening for many of the teams. And I will just tell you this. This part here of July and early or late June, early July, everything starts to kind of line up in place. And there's one rumor that has not gone away. And that's the availability of Maxx Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders. And I will just tell you that the fact that Crosby is still potentially available makes things very interesting for a number of teams, including the Chicago Bears. And I don't know what may happen here with this, but if it gets to be the trade deadline and the Bears defense is struggling and they're in the hunt for the division and the Raiders are struggling, which I think most of us feel like they probably will. New head coach, first year, with a rookie quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. I just have to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the Bears might be able to get him on the cheap. And I have to go along with it and say, yes, I hope they do. Because let's be honest here. On episode 200 of the show tonight, you have a guy that could ultimately change your defense in Maxx Crosby that, according to reports, is still available. So if he's still available, why would we not, as Bears, as the Bears front office, why would you not go after him after, or why would you not go get him after you get Caleb Williams signed to his contract extension? Why would you not work on that right now, the Caleb Williams contract extension, because you're going to need to. Have it in place, have it ready to go, announce it, and then you make the move to get Maxx Crosby. You make the move before, say, Green Bay does. You make the move before, say, Detroit does. Because more than likely, you absolutely know more than likely that you're going to have somebody from one of those teams, pillaging, for lack of a better term. You're going to have somebody from those teams trying to get your best player for cheap. And so my thought process is, if you're the Chicago Bears, you're going to do everything and anything possible to get this guy on your squad. And if you're able to do that, you're going to be much better off. You could probably get him for cheaper than what you were originally offering, which I believe was two ones. Now think about that for a moment. If you go back to before the draft and before he was traded to Baltimore, the Bears offered the same price that Baltimore did, 2-1s, but ultimately Vegas took Baltimore's offer because they felt like the Bears weren't going to be as bad as Baltimore. Now I think because of his health conditions, you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper than what you offered before, maybe 1-1 and a 2. And if you're good again, like the Bears are expected to be, that's something that you can absolutely deal with. And that's something that you can absolutely take to the bank. So again, my thought process is this. For this instance here, for the Bears, if you have the opportunity to get Max Crosby cheaper than what you did before, who will still have a massive impact on your team, why wouldn't you do so? Why wouldn't you allow your team to get better? It's a plain and simple question, one that has to be asked, and one that quite simply needs to be addressed by the Bears, by Detroit Lions, by any team that feels that they're in contention. If they feel like they are in contention for the division, there is absolutely zero reasons why you wouldn't go after Max Crosby. None. And I hope that the Bears are the ones that get him. I truly, truly do. Because if they're able to get him, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right, let's talk here about one other item. And folks, if you're watching us streaming tonight, I do apologize. We are having incredibly bad internet issues here for some odd reason. In the northern Illinois region, and I don't know why. I'm not sure exactly why. But be that as it may, we're gonna press on here, and we're gonna continue on, because for some odd reason our internet is not very stable tonight, and I don't know why that is, because we're hooked directly in. Anyway, this Dianna Russini thing just is not going away, and it's continuing to be a big problem. And the fact that Russini is still, out there talking and out there, for lack of a better term, the story that's just, it's not going away at all. And I honestly believe that, there's just a lot of questions right now that I'm finding with this, and it's a story that won't go away. It's a story that is continuing to be, it's continuing to just be an issue, and she's not helping it by stating, quote, when I've gotten pulled over multiple times, and I'll FaceTime an NFL coach to help, get me out of a ticket, and so on and so forth. That's not good. That's a problem. And so the local municipality, there's an old adage that says, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And quite honestly, the fact here is that you have a reporter that tends to embellish a little bit. And what she's doing here is she is absolutely doing that. And what do I mean? Well, as it turns out, and this comes from Pro Football Talk, Dianna Russini did not FaceTime an NFL head coach for help in getting out of a ticket for texting while driving. She claims she did during a February segment with the Stugotz and Company radio show. Her anecdote was mentioned at the outset of the news article last week in the New York Times, her former employer. The body cam video of Russini's traffic stop has now been posted by the center square. The 7-minute and 10-second video includes the entire traffic stop. At no point does it include a FaceTime call with any NFL head coach. Why are we lying here about this? I mean, why does she feel the need to do this? After the officer approaches her car, Russini says, "I'm an NFL reporter, and I just broke the Sean McDermott got fired from the Bills story, and what I was just sending to send a tweet. I was going to pull over because I have to make calls. I know you don't care, but I just wanted you to know the reason why." The officer says, "Obviously, you were on your phone for a while. I understand you've got a job." Then Russini says, "You know who I was on the phone with? Brian Daboll. He wants the job." Next, she asks the officer if he's a fan of the Giants or the Jets. I'm not a fan of either," the officer says. "Well, who is your team, or what is your team?" Russini replies. "I'm a Vikings fan, unfortunately," he said. Russini then shows him her phone and a text exchange with Vikings head coach Kevin O'Donnell. But she didn't FaceTime O'Connell. She simply showed the officer her phone. She added that regarding the Vikings quarterback, that he sucks. After going to his vehicle, the officer eventually returns and says, "I'm going to cut you a break on the cell phone. I understand that your job requires you to be on the phone a lot. Just try and wait till you get home, okay?" And that was that. No FaceTime. So while it made for an interesting radio story on the radio show, it never happened. And that is an absolute, complete, and utter joke. So that story will not go away. And it just continues to, for lack of a better term, paint her in not a good light, for putting it mildly. And that's not good for Dianna Russini. Her credibility has been tarnished and questioned. She has lied about numerous things, and it's just coming out here that it looks like she'll do whatever she can try to do to manipulate things to her behalf or for her behalf. So, again, it's a story that won't go away. It will not go away. All right, let's take a quick timeout. We're going to hear from our friends over at I Know a Guy Remodeling. And then from there, we're going to come back and we're going to talk at length here about more NFL stuff as well as NBA free agency. So, with that being said, we will be right back here on the Last Row podcast. Stay with us as we hear from our good friends over at I Know a Guy Remodeling. You know what's amazing? Everybody seems to know somebody who can do remodeling until something goes wrong. If you're remodeling your kitchen, your bathroom, your basement, replacement flooring, tackling a big home project, don't gamble with your biggest investment. Call I Know a Guy Remodeling. They're dependable, they communicate, they show up when they say they will, and they treat your home like it's their own. Whether it's one room or a complete renovation, they take pride in the job of doing it right the first time. That's why they're so proud supporters of the Last Row podcast. So before you hire just anybody because they gave you the cheapest estimate, make sure you're hiring someone you can actually trust. You can check out a link to their Facebook page on our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com, because everybody deserves to know a guy. And now you do. I Know a Guy Remodeling.